This is the Slow Wardrobe. Come and have a look.
Hello, welcome to episode 117 of the Slow Wardrobe podcast. My name is Linda and I'm here to tell you about my knitting and crochet antics of the last 2 weeks. A little bit of information about the family holiday that I've just finished, that I came back from about a week ago now. And followed by a Layercake section that introduces the latest pre-order in Layercake, which is the Layercake cap gather dress. What you see here to my left is the gather dress that I introduced earlier this spring, which is a play on the love dress in the sense that it has the same kind of dolman sleeves and the same kind of bust shaping, but instead of then having a tulip shape, a straight dress or plain dress with pockets on the side, instead it has a gathered waistline that is higher up in the front, princess line height on the front, and then drops to the back to just below your waist to create a really nice kind of shape all the way around your body without creating a massive big gathered skirt. And to further reduce that, we tapered in the bottom of the skirt a little bit so that it's not this big tent, but you still get the roominess of the gathers. So we introduced that. Then we followed it with a cap sleeve version of the play suit. That's a pre-order that just finished last week. However, they can still be ordered. The fabric is not all finished. I'm wearing it in, we introduced it in a couple of different striped linens. I'm wearing it in the royalty stripe. And I then took the idea of the gather dress and the cap suit and combined them and made the cap gather dress. In other words, a gather dress with the same cap sleeves instead of the 3/4 length sleeves of the original. So a summer version, if you like. So if you're interested to see and hear more about that, then that's what you'll see in the Layercake section. But first, a quick update on what I've been up to in terms of knitting and crochet these past 2 weeks. Well, I think I already showed you this finished object. That was another one of my shawl recipes, if you like, which I will at some point try to publish as a pattern. It's not much of a pattern, it's more as that's why I'm calling it a recipe. So I'll make that available for free on the website because there's not much to pattern about it. And that also gives me a chance to just rabbit on about different ideas as to how you can finish it and how you can work on it. It just starts off as 3 stitches that you cast on, and then you increase on one side and you decrease on the other side, and you decrease slower than the number of increases that you do. That's why your number of stitches does slowly go up. So as the number of stitches go up and your work gets wider, you then have the option to either cast them all off at one go or create short rows, which I've done here for a bit. And at that other end, because of course you're knitting in this direction, so this is what you'll then have on your needle, then you have the option to do different things with it. Like I said, just keep it simple, or you can put a lace panel in, for example. I've put in a section of garter stitch here before I ran out of one of the 2 yarns, because I'm holding 2 yarns together throughout here, which is one of the gradient balls of gradient yarns by Bilum yarns, a Hungarian brand that does these beautiful long slow gradients. So it's got a hank of Bilum yarns, and then I held that together with some very thin silk 100% silk lace that I still had from Fyberspates, a purchase that must have been somewhere between 10 and 15 years ago, and that I'd never used because I wanted it to use it for something special. So I used all of it in the first half or first section of the shawl, and then when I knew I was going to run out, I finished the section of the double yarn of the gradient together, held together with the silk in garter, and then when I ran out of the silk, I then finished up the gradient, which by now has gone into this beautiful lilac color with a normal stocking stitch again, and then cast everything off. The little bits that I had left over, I turned into a couple of tassels again. So the result I'm really happy with, because it starts at that kind of like pale salmon color and then goes through a darker pink and then gradually turns into purple. I love it. It also, of course, looks really nice with this gather dress in the rust diamonds, because it's got that kind of rusty colored orange, burnt orange color in it at some point, and in the gradient, but that it also comes back in the silk yarn. So you've got this little flecks of the rust color throughout, and of course it picks up on that rust really nicely when you combine it with the dress. So that is the finished object that by now finally I have steam blocked, so hence being able to show it to you a little bit less crumpled. And I also showed you in France, when I did a very short section, another version of that same little shawl recipe that I've been working on. I really use this recipe now as a bit of a stopgap. If I want something quick and easy that I don't need to think about, then I cast one of these on. And it's also great stash buster if you've got somewhere between 50 and 100 grams of either lace weight or 4-ply yarn left, then it's really nice to do one of these. It turns it into a nice little piece of jewelry almost, but it gives you a little bit of warmth around your neck as well, of course. So the one that I'm knitting here, I already introduced it last time when I showed you sitting outside the mill where we were staying in France. This is a bit of a Koigu Mori that I had, I think about 90 or 95 grams left. And then every 12 or so rows, I hold it together with a strand of Artisan Yarns linen that I kept a ball of in this beautiful raspberry color, and I knit little nubs, little bobbles. I hope you can see them a little bit. They kind of stand proud from the rest of the knitting, and I, like I said already, I hold it together with the linen just for the 2 rows where I make the little bobbles, and then I strand along the linen by knitting it together for the last 2 or so stitches of, and first 2 or so stitches of every row, so I don't have any strands of yarn held by the side. So more of this as I go along, but I'm not making very fast progress. Oh, I've got a very itchy nose, bear with. Ooh, sorry about that. That was a big sneeze coming on. I've not made very fast progress with this, because as I came back from France, I've dived straight back into the crochet work that I'm doing with the blanket that I'm working on as part of the Tesselation Nation course that I'm following with Sue Maton. So I'll be able to show you 2 of the big medallions, I think, what did she call them again? Mandalas, that she calls them, that I have now finished. I have this one as the first one, and as you may remember, my inspiration for the colors of this blanket was 2 different paintings that both depict big sunflowers. So I'm trying to use very sunflowery colors in these big medallions, which or mandalas, which of course are depicting the biggest sunflowers on the blanket. There'll be smaller ones as well. So I think in terms of colors, I like this one better than that one. But I want to have some sunflower depictions that have a really dark center. So I'm playing around with the use of colors that is reminiscent of the combinations of colors that I can see in the paintings on the cores of the big sunflowers, and then go with more of the yellow colors around the outside. But I'm going to study those paintings a little bit more, and I'm going to potentially adapt my color palette for these big sunflowers a little bit. I'm not quite happy with the mixture and the balance of colors in this center. But of course, I can only work out that color balance on the basis of how big each section in the different circles that I'm crocheting end up being. And that is something that of course you only know once you have the pattern, and we only got the pattern for these a couple of weeks ago. So I'm still at a bit of an experimental stage, and I'll be probably adapting the color balance for future mandalas. I'm going to have quite a lot of them. I think I've got like 10 or 11 of them in my blanket, and that's also one of the reasons that I found it quite difficult to decide on the color balance of some of the other sections of the blanket, because these mandalas end up featuring so prominently. I think Sue in her original design only had 3 of these big babies in her blanket, and with me having 11 and then a whole bunch of the next size down of designs of and I think she calls that, maybe she calls that a medallion. I will check. But anyway, because I have so many of the big motifs, it ends up being they end up being dominating my blanket, and therefore the background of the blanket really needs to support the dominating colors and the dominating color balance of my biggest motifs. Therefore, I found it quite difficult to follow the instructions of trying to crochet as much of the blanket with the background colors as possible and then drop in these big flowers at the end. So I haven't even looked at the gauge issues yet, because that was one of the reasons that Sue said wait with these big ones until the end, because since you won't have as many, you can play a little bit with gauge to make sure that they fit properly. It's going to be a completely different story in my case, so I need to check gauge, look at the section of blanket that I already have, and then draw my plan from there. So I'll be able to show you some photographs of what I have and what I'm thinking of in more detail next time. I hope you find that entertaining. So that's what I've done in terms of the blanket progress so far. And I've also done, just for fun, a couple of more doodles of some of these motifs in linen. As you may remember from what I showed you when I was in France, is that I did some of the little flowers in linen on a much smaller hook, of course. So whereas I am crocheting on a 3.75 millimeter hook with a DK yarn for the blanket, this is a linen 3-ply that I crochet with a 2.2 millimeter hook, so quite a difference. And I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do with this. I'm at the moment also playing with little star shapes that I like the idea of knitting or sewing little stars on some of my, I'm trying to find them back here, on some of my layer cakes. Here is a tiny little 5-pointed star, and I'm going to do those in multiple colors and adorn some of my layer cake garments with them. So more of that hopefully as well later. But before we dive into layer cake, there's one other thing that I wanted to show you and tell you about and potentially ask you about. Another one of my little stars. And that is the hook that I'm working with for the blanket. As you know, if you look for, or as you may know, if you look for like an ergonomic or softer on your hands crochet hook to work with, then most of them look something along these lines. So you have the stem of the hook itself, then you have a bigger section of where to hold your hook, like such. However, when I crochet, I help control the stitch movement on the tip of my hook, and in some cases moving my hook through the work with my forefinger. That makes me want to move my fingers closer to the tip of the hook than the handle promotes. So I was wondering, am I the only person who does that? Are there other people who end up holding their crochet hook pretty much in front of the handle section And are you aware of any other brands that solve this differently? I have found one, and I'll show you the hook that I'm working with. It's a brand called Furls. It's American, and Furls specializes in hooks that have this shape. So it's got this bullet shape, a much thicker handle, and Furls tend to all be made out of wood. They introduced metal version, a beautiful, beautiful weighted metal version of their hooks not long ago, but their hooks are all much thicker. And then just in time for the blanket work, I saw on Instagram an ad from Furls promoting 2 new sizes, a 3.75 millimeter and I think 3.25 millimeter. That's the thinnest they've ever gone with their hooks. And of course it's possible to do that because they're now made out of steel instead of, or maybe it's aluminium rather than wood. So I promptly ordered one, and as you can see, the thick section of the hook is still further back than it is on my little tulip hook here. However, because there's no lump and bump, it's a very gradual size change of this bullet shaped neck, which I love. I love the fact the bumpiness is gone and it's a gradual change. The other thing that is lovely about the Furls hooks is that wherever your pinky finger, your ring finger and your pinky finger land on the handle, that handle is a lot thicker than a standard crochet hook. And because you do a lot of movements with these fingers, controlling the movement of your hook, you end up holding it at a section that is much thicker, and that is very relaxing for this part of your muscles going up your arm, and that really makes a big difference. So I'm very keen on my Furls hook. The only caveat for me is that there are also 2 different types of tips on a crochet hook. There is a tip that is slightly tapered and that has little grooves, for want of a better word, on the side of the hook that the yarn ends up kind of slipping into, so that the whole thing becomes nice and pointy and therefore easy to push in and out of yarn, especially on tighter points of your work. Then there is this straight shape hook, which is the same size all the way to the top and then with a blunt tip. So this tip is blunter, even if you would take 2 hooks exactly the same size. If I would have a 3.75 millimeter hook from Tulip, then this tip, the Tulip hook, would have a more tapered tip and therefore a bit sharper. And the other thing that a hook like this with that straight top doesn't have are the little grooves on the side that the yarn sits in. So the result is that if you are a tighter crocheter, or if you do more complicated work where you're trying to cram more stitches in a small space, then working with a hook like this becomes a little bit more difficult, because it is more difficult to push it through a very tight spot. And that then makes it, for me at least, even more interesting and more important to use these fingers to help guide my hook and guide my yarn. So all in all, this hook is working fine for me, but if I were to design my own hook, and maybe I once in a lifetime I would love to do something like that. It's the kind of industrial design that I'm really drawn to. Then I would make a hook like this, but I would give it that tapered head that hooks like these have, and I would move this bullet shape closer to the tip. I don't need a shaft this long. Even if I have more complicated stitches, a shaft doesn't really need to be any longer than about an inch and a bit. So this handle can broaden out much sooner than it does. So if you are enthusiastic about crochet, I'd love to hear what you think about your crochet hooks and what kind of crochet hooks you use, and what you think of everything I had to say about this. Is this like a never thought of this, I just get on with the hooks that I have, or that sounds interesting, I'd love to try one, or whatever? I'd love to hear more from you about what your opinions are about crochet hooks. I'll put a post of them on Instagram as well, to ask for opinions, and if I get any feedback, I'll let you know next time. Then, before we dive into Layercake, there are two patterns that I wanted to highlight for you in terms of lovely summer knits. One is the Boo Knits shawl that Beverly from Boo Knits very kindly designed with Layercake in mind. Must be about a year and a half ago by now. It's a gorgeous design that either can have this stocking stitch panel and then with a section of lace that either does or doesn't have any beads. This one is beaded, that's why I grabbed it, because it looks, the beads are just the same kind of color as in my cat suit. So I thought, oh, let me wear this shawl, that looks great with it. So this pattern is available on my website. It can be knitted in my three-ply linen, which it is here. Of course, it's gorgeous for a 3-ply gradient as well. That's going to be one of my next projects. I want to see this pattern in one of the linen gradients. And if you're looking for any other lovely, loose, airy, lacy summer knits, then the other pattern that I can heartily recommend, that is one of my own designs, is called Summer Storm. It's here on this mannequin, and it was knitted here in artisan Queen Anne's lace. It can be knitted, it's nicest to be knitted in a lace weight yarn. It could be any lace weight yarn really. But it could possibly also look very nice knitted in the linen. So I'm kind of in two minds. Am I going to knit this one, or am I going to knit one of those in linen? Because I'd love to see it in linen. It's got sections that are more closed and then sections that are more open. It's a really nice big shawl. I'll show a picture of it right now next to me so that you see the whole thing. It's this huge crescent shape. And of course, the whole thing would shrink down a little bit if it would be made out of linen, out of smaller needles. Again, I'll experiment a little bit with that. And if I've got any feedback for you on that, I will, of course, pass it on in a future episode. So that's about it in terms of knitting and crochet this episode. Before we dive into Layercake, I will give you a little bit of a summary of what I did in France. As you may or may not already be aware, I had a lovely holiday in France just these past couple of weeks. All of us descended on a beautiful converted mill in the south of France. If I have a decent picture of it, I'll show it to you here. And it's a mill that is run as a bed and breakfast, or as a self-catering villa, for want of a better word, by friends of ours. They live in Ailloux, which is about an hour southwest of Toulouse, and it's a beautiful destination. I'll put their web address down here. I strongly recommend, if you are that way inclined and you love rural France, that you give it a look to see if it might be a destination for you to consider in the future. They are lovely, lovely people. They have a swimming pool. There are actually two different properties that you can rent. There's the watermill itself, and then there's a converted bakery next door that is also available as a holiday let. So it's a lovely place to go to. They run it as a little small holding. So if you have kids and the kids like animals, then there are some animals around. But you can engage or not engage with the small holding side of things as much or little as you like. You can have complete and total privacy there as well. There's an outside kitchen where you end up spending most of your time. If it's even half sunny, it's covered, so you're not exposed. It's just lovely and very, very peaceful. So we were there for the first week of our holiday. We end up taking the ferry from Portsmouth, and that's a ferry where you go on in the evening. You spend 2 nights on the ferry, and 2 days later, early in the morning, you arrive in either Bilbao or Santander in Spain, and then you just drive around the bottom corner of like Biarritz and Bayonne, that area of France, up to Ailloux. It's about 5 or 6 hour drive from Santander. So you end up arriving mid-afternoon in AU. It's a lovely combination of traveling in luxury and in peace, because you don't have to do a lot of driving, except for that morning drive to AU. Our kids flew into Toulouse. Our daughter flew into Carcassonne and picked up the boys with the rental car that she got in Carcassonne. So she picked up the boys in Toulouse and drove down to AU. And my brother and his wife drove from Holland to the Netherlands, where they live. And they just spent a couple of days kind of winding their way down France, and we all met up in the mill. We had a wonderful family week together there. The kids then flew off in different directions. My brother drove back to Holland, and my husband and I stayed for a second week, just like we had done the year before, when we drove closer to the Pyrenees and cycled there for a week. We have electric bicycles, which are wonderful for cycling on undulated terrain, because due to the help that you get from the motor, you still end up burning lots of calories, but the motor helps you with the most difficult bits of hills, which means that you can just cycle for hours and not get exhausted. You don't get any saddle pain and whatever, so it's wonderful. Heartily recommend that. But anyway, so we did that closer to the Pyrenees last year, and this year we went back towards the coast to the Biarritz and Bayonne area, where we stayed at an Airbnb, little tiny house, and we made daily excursions on our bicycles, riding between either, like, the shortest ride was like 20 miles, the longest ride was about 60 miles in one day. And we just went out every day on the bikes and explored the whole area, cycled all the way up to Cap Breton and as far south as Biarritz along the coast. Had a wonderful time. If I've got any photographs, I'll show them here of the bikes or the views in different places. And there's one thing that I want to point out to you that I had never seen in my life. I caught a little bit of video footage of two guys with their surfboards, and these are not regular surfboards. They go out into the sea, obviously, and catch waves, but these surfboards have a keel underneath and a little wing that looks like a dolphin's fin, and as they catch a wave, the whole thing lifts up out of the water. I think it may be called a hydrofoil, maybe. I will double check that and do a bit of research, what I should have done, of course, before I opened my mouth here. But I only just thought of showing that to you. So hopefully you can see that footage now, where they catch the wave and then they ride the wave with the surfboard actually above the water. And then they make this pumping movement. They jump up and down on the board to make the board go for longer and catch that wave for longer. They can steer from one wave into another, so they can also stay on top of their board for a lot longer than a regular surfer can. I'd never seen one of those boards, and funnily enough, the day before we saw them, my husband tried to explain to me that these things existed. I said, oh my gosh, I've never seen one. And lo and behold, the next day, there they were. So I thought it was a cool thing to show you, and here it was. I hope you enjoyed that snippet. So after our second week of cycling, we drove back to Santander, caught the ferry again, which you then catch at about lunchtime, and then like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, the next afternoon, you're back home or back in Portsmouth. And we only live about half an hour away from Portsmouth. So that connection to get us to either the south of France or Spain with our own car and our own bikes, starting half an hour from home, for us is just ideal. So the other thing that we've come away with from this particular holiday is a growing desire to move out of the UK. I am so keen to vote with my feet for the Brexit storm that we're still in, following that vote now 8 years ago that I hated then and I still hate evermore now. I am of the firm belief that the country is going to suffer a lot more, that the UK is going to suffer a lot more for that decision. And I I'm a strong believer in the EU, in countries working together. I'm for inclusion rather than exclusion. So not even being able to vote as a foreigner living in the UK, because I still have my Dutch passport, the only way I can express my dismay is to vote with my feet. I was always joking that I left Holland because it's too full a country, there are too many people there, so the only way I can help that is to leave myself. And the only way I can express my dislike for Brexit is to leave the country, and that's what we may end up doing. Following our lovely weeks in France, the wonderful quiet roads that we find there, the plethora of cycle routes and cycleways that we find there, and because of the way we work, because of the way I work with my little business, it might even be a possibility to leave the business running here as it is, with me running it at a distance, laptop underneath my arm, and just make regular visits to keep things going. The only physical reason for me to be at my studio, apart from the design work that I do, is well, mind you, I can do the design work somewhere else as well. It's really briefing the designs to Andrea, who then turns them into patterns, and the daily parcel pickups by Royal Mail. But of course, packing up parcels is not something that I have to do myself. I still do it because I enjoy doing it, but that can easily be changed as well. So who knows, there may be a move to France in the future at some point for us. For now, it's just lovely to dream about and to go back to France regularly to find out if that really is where we believe our destiny lies. So that's it for all my personal updates. I don't give you that many personal updates, but I thought in this case, because it is a little bit more far-reaching than normal coming back from a holiday, I thought I'd give you a little bit of an insight as to what on earth we've been up to, and what our current dreams and fantasies are. And I'll leave it at that. Let's dive into Layercake and have a close-up look at the cap gather dress. Enjoy. And here we are with the Layercake cap gather dress. The gather dress, like I introduced earlier this spring, but now with the sleeves cut off and reintroduced as a more summertime dress, or a tunic type dress, or a shift type dress if you like, because of course with the sleeves cut off but roomy enough around the armholes to wear something underneath it, you can of course wear it over the top of other garments, and I will show you some of those. To start off with, I'm wearing a cap gather dress in a size 1 petite. As you can see, that just barely hits my knees, that shorter length, and as a result it's almost tunic-like on me. I'm wearing it with same color hibiscus slackers in the size large long, and as you can see that on my frame, on my 5'10" frame, the crotch of the slackers in the long length is just about the same height as the bottom hem of my petite cap gather dress. I'm showing you all three of the dress lengths. Of course, there's only me with my 5'10", but you still get a good idea of proportions, and of course, knowing your own height and your own layer cakes and where and how they hit you, you'll probably get a good idea as to how the cap gather dress compares. In terms of other dresses, we coordinate those lengths, so the petite dresses of the gather variety, whether they be cap or with sleeve, are same lengths as the tulip dresses and the love dresses in the petite, regular or medium and long length. So I will also show you sleeves and other garments in combination with the dress to see how they look layered up. And I'm starting with a bit of an unexpected one. It's just that I had one of these in a size 1 in the color hibiscus, and it's a love tunic, which I'm just going to throw on over the top of the gather dress and see what happens. Here it comes. Tunic, love tunic in a size 1 over the top of my size 1 petite cap gather dress. And here you can see with the longer length in the back of the tunic and where that cap gather dress hits me, you can see the difference in length in the back. And then as the love tunic sweeps up a little bit in the front, so I've got easy access to my pockets. But as a combination of 3 garments, it actually looks really nice. It's just a nice layered outfit and all in the same color. Of course, we can start playing with lots of colors, and we will, but I wanted to show you what happens if you just keep it all in one color and just throw it on over the top of each other. Of course, you're losing that effect of the gathers in the front with the love tunic over the top, and the whole outfit becomes a little bit sleeker and then broken up by those different layers. So you could of course put a cap gather dress in between of a different color if you want to break that up and you want to make color combinations, and then come back in the same color for the trousers. But I could also put the tunic underneath the cap gather dress if I want to see my gathers. I'm going to show you that with a different combination later on. So I'm going to keep going now and show you the next combination. Long sleeve layer removed, or longer sleeve layer removed. And here is the same petite length hibiscus dress with a pair of high-lows. I have got the high-lows just at the longest length, but I've had some requests recently to show how you tie them up, so I will show you that again. I've done it in one of the previous episodes, but for those of you who don't quite remember how I did this, you start with the ribbons, of course, that are on the inside of the trouser and that you keep tied in a bow when you don't shorten the trouser, just so that they don't hang down below the hemline. So you undo the bow, you go through the corresponding buttonhole in the hem of the trouser, and then you can either tie a bow, which I will do here. I'll do that on both sides. So I'll find that corresponding buttonhole, put one of my ribbons through, pull one of my ribbons through, tie it in a bow, and then I will throw down the trouser, which has now been pulled up, basically folded upwards and caught in both of the side seams. And because of that slight balloon shape, it just stays in beautifully, and it creates this really nice 3/4 length, almost plus 4 type finish at the bottom of the leg. So that's one possibility, but you can go a little bit further and do a little bit more of a crumpled look by, again, tying. So you start, like I did before, you start with that buttonhole, but then there's a tab here on the outside of the trouser that has a buttonhole in it as well. So you first go through the buttonhole in the hem, then you go through the buttonhole on the outside of the leg, and then you tie that same bow again. Like such. And then the trouser becomes slightly shorter still. It's not just folded up, but folded up and crumpled together. And that gives a slightly different look, slightly shorter, shows a little bit more leg, and give you a third option in terms of how to wear the trousers. Now, these are high-lows in the long length, so they've got 2 sets of pockets, these top and these lower pockets, and then the regular length, the shorter length of the high-lows have got that same lovely balloon shape and 1 set of pockets on them, and they are 4 inches shorter than these. These are 41 inches outside leg length and the regular lengths are 37 outside leg length. So I hope that's helpful. So different look, quite a classic color combination, of course, that red and then the black and white of the black gingham high-lows. So I'm going to move on to keep these high-lows on, but change the color of the dress. Still in one petite. Same size and length, different color. This is the black currant, again, one petite in the cap gather dress. I've kept the trousers the same, and I will now throw on a smock over the top of the dress to show you what happens when you wear a petite length dress with a regular length and regular size smock. Here it comes. So this is a size 2 smock in the large new check. I was keen to show the large new check again in combination with the black currant because they're such a good combination. And I don't have a smock in a size 1 in this fabric. So this is a size 2 smock and a size 1 dress. So you can see the dress peeping out in the middle underneath the smock, but the points of the smock are of course longer. That's a little bit exaggerated because I'm wearing a size 2 smock over a size 1 dress, but you get the idea of what it looks like. Even in the size 1, those points would still be quite a bit longer than the dress. So do check those measurements depending on what height you are and if you're unfamiliar with these garments. And when in doubt, give me a shout. I can tell you a bit more about proportions if you need to know them for your particular size and length combination. But I'll keep going with longer length dresses as well. I just wanted to show one other color that goes particularly well with black currant as an alternative to the black gingham high-lows that I'm wearing. And that's a pair of palazzos in bitter lime. Here are the palazzos. This is a size extra large long. So they are really roomy. I can stick both of my arms into the trousers with me, but I really like that nice oversized, generous, loose leg shape and length. The large long palazzos are slightly more fitted on me around the hips, but they do still fit. So that large size fits up to size 18/20 round the hips. And if you're beyond that, then definitely go, or if you like this oversized look, of course, then go for the extra large, either in the regular or in the long length. But the main point was to show you bitter lime in combination with black currant and of course large new check. So moving on again to dress color number 3, we've got a medium length in size 1 in nightshade. Nightshade, medium length dress, so that's kind of calf length on me. I'll show a medium length dress in a minute without the trousers as well. But I first wanted to show you that nightshade, of course, is another match made in heaven with the opposite side of the color wheel where we find a color like bitter lime. And it's also a great opportunity to show you the extra layer that a cocoon love top can make in combination with a cap dress. I will put one of the turmeric tops on underneath this dress because it's very close, of course, to the color of the bitter lime trousers, and it makes again for an outfit with sleeves. It gives you that extra layer when you need it by putting a top underneath your cap gather dress. Turmeric cocoon love top, size 1, worn with the size 1 dress and in combination with that bitter lime palazzo trouser. Of course, instead of palazzo trouser, you can wear any of the other trousers, or even a matching cocoon baggy, of course, in terms of a bottom layer. And that's a kind of base layer. That was really the idea behind developing the cocoons, plus the idea that you can just wear them as loungewear at home, throw on one extra piece over the top, so I could be lounging in my love top with matching baggies at home, then needing to go out, just throw this cap gather dress over the top and I'm good to go, as they say. So I hope you love the colors. I think this is a wonderful combination. I really like the idea of contrasting sleeves peeping out from under the cap gather dress, and these sleeves are long enough to just cover that top part of your arm that you don't necessarily want to advertise to the world, but they're not so long that it looks like you're wearing sleeves on sleeves, if you know what I mean. So I think it's a really good combination and a really nice look. Let me change the color of these trousers again to match them to the dress, and to show you that long trousers with a longer dress looks really good too. Matching slackers in the nightshade color, long large again, same size that I was wearing before. I must say I'm completely hooked on my hibiscus slackers, the ones that I opened the episode with, or this section of the episode with. Those are my own hibiscus slackers, and I'm wearing them non-stop at the moment. It's taken a while. I was always keen to make a pair of drop crotch trousers that were not quite as dramatic as the baggies. So the slackers are them, and I have the feeling that some of you really have to get used to that shape, but I hope you will grow to love it and realize how versatile and how super comfortable they are. And again, partially because of course you can tuck lots of different types of tops into them, because the inside of them is just as open as free as baggies are, all the way down to your knees. So they create a lot of versatility, and they offer a slightly more sleek shape and look around your hips with that different type of pocket. Still huge pockets. My arm can go into halfway up to my elbow, and the pockets are caught in the front, so they don't hang down, they don't drop around, so you can wear heavy things like a big phone inside and they don't end up pulling your trouser down or flopping around to the back. And it's just a different silhouette, of course, from the big outside pockets of, for example, the baggies. So slackers and a matching dress, but this time in the medium length or regular length. So if you wear, for example, the petite length dress because you're of shorter stature and you end up wearing a shorter trouser with it, then this may be more the kind of proportion that you end up with in terms of how much of your trousers is visible underneath your dress. So it gives you a bit of an idea. I'm going to keep going with different colors, but before then I will take off the trousers and the love top as well, to show you what the medium length looks like in terms of how much leg you see on my particular height. Here we go. Here it is. Nothing underneath, well, underwear and lots of bruises. Oh my gosh. I went over a couple of times on my bicycle and ended up really bruising my leg in different places, especially my left leg, on the frame of my bike. I'm absolutely fine, but if you see strange discolorations on my left leg, it's just bruises. It's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong. I bruise relatively easily. So despite my vitamin K supplement that I take, but I've had that all my life. So if you think, oh my gosh, is her left leg about to fall off because it's discolored? No, just bruises. So you can see as well what the length of that medium length dress is on me. So obviously, depending on how many inches shorter you are, that hemline will drop. And I will show you a long length cap gather dress as well. And depending on what your height is, so if you're more of a medium height, around the 5'5", then the regular length dress, the medium length dress, will probably hit you at a similar place on your leg as the long length does on me, because there's 4 inches between the dress lengths. But I'm going to keep going and add another contrasting color to Nightshade before changing to dress color number 4. Here we go. I wanted to show you that if you go for a color that's kind of on the opposite side of the color wheel, it doesn't have to be as intense as the color that you're contrasting it with. So with Nightshade being quite an intense and vibrant purple, that doesn't mean that the opposite color, in this case the yellow that we generate by combining chartreuse and natural, needs to be just as vibrant. Of course you can combine this with chartreuse to great effect, but if you water down that chartreuse like we've done here with the herringbone baggies and the hay colored long duster, then the effect is still just as striking. Here we are. So another way of warming up an outfit by adding some sleeves, in this case with the duster over the top, which of course I can wear open like I was, or I can close it up with the ties. As you may well know, it's an option to have ties on your duster, or if you know that you'll always wear it open, then of course you don't need the ties, but it's a nice option to have to be able to close it and wear it, for example, as a cover-up in summer. I already did that during my sojourn in France recently, my family holiday. So here we are, Nightshade and hay in a lovely combination, the medium length dress and the long length duster. But let's move on to the next color, because the next color goes rather nicely with hay as well. And here we have beautiful, gorgeous teal sky. Teal sky is one of those colors, it's like, oh yeah, blue dress. But if you then look up close, of course, it is also a rather special cross weave. So it's got teal hidden in it, and by combining it with a slightly lavendery blue, you end up with this beautiful blue that ends up just like some of the other cross weaves, having a lot of depth when you look up close. And as a result, it's got a vibrancy that is not loud. So when you compare it with all the other colors, it never comes across as a very in-your-face blue, like cerulean, for example, which is very, very bright. This doesn't seem very bright, but then when you wear it in combination with a muted color like hay, you think, well, actually, it's brighter than I thought. And it's one of those colors that, because it's got both blue and green in it, so it's got a yellow in the teal, it suits a large number of different complexions. So people who normally may shy away from blue because they go like, it washes me out a little bit, it's worth trying teal sky, or ask me for a sample if you want to see it, and so that you can hold it up next to your face before deciding, because it's one of those colors that may surprise you and that may add a color to your spectrum and your wardrobe that you had never thought you'd wear. So let me take off this duster and show this beautiful cap gather dress in the medium length in all its glory. So I want to point out again, which I haven't really yet, that of course that gather line drops from the front to the back, and it's just to create that kind of sweeping line that we've got going through so many of the garments, including of course the duster that I just took off, shorter in the front, longer in the back. It just creates an elegant line that I don't know why not more labels do that, because it ends up creating it gives a slight regal look to any outfit. It's really effective. And of course, with the gathers, it puts the gathers in a place that works really well with a number of different heights of people too, because as you know, I like the idea of promoting the idea that you wear different lengths of garments depending on the look that you go for. So if this dress needs to work on people of different height, then it works even better with that dropped or dropping waistline. So that's a little bit of background to the label and to the philosophy behind it. Let's change it up with colors and pair Teal Sky with a couple of others. Here comes the first one. Here is teal herringbone baggies in the regular length, so cropped on me. So not quite as much trouser sticking out between my dress, but still clearly present. And of course, with the color that the teal herringbone and the teal sky have in common, it's a great combination with the dress. I have also grabbed an alternative extra layer that you could add to your cap gather dress, or to any Layercake outfit, of course, which is the Jan jacket. In this case, also in teal sky, with the facings around the neckline and the sleeves in deep sea. And deep sea, of course, has got teal in it as well. So a lovely combination and bringing that teal back that's in the baggies. And of course, it comes peeping out when you wear the jacket open, and I can then, with the ties, close it up and create yet another coordinated outfit with most of the color running throughout, but then a couple of unexpected accents like the deep sea contrast of the ties and the facings, and the teal coming back. Oh, pockets, of course, which are now hidden. There we are. There are pockets in the outside seams of the jacket, so it's not pocketless completely, but they're a little bit more hidden. They're not quite as prominent, on purpose to create that cleaner kind of look and silhouette. So, jacket open, jacket in the back, jacket closed, jacket in the back, jacket open. Oh dear. Well, I've got another a bit of an experiment. I wanted to see what a shirt does in combination with a cap gather dress. Not over the top, because we can pretty much predict that, but can I wear a shirt underneath one? I'm going to try it now. I know as much as you about that at this point. Let's see. Oh, I'm liking this. This is one of the shirts in size 1 in the blue stripe, which of course is a blue in combination with a natural undyed linen. And of course that natural undyed linen is also present in the teal herringbone baggies. So it's another clever combination with the bringing the baggies in, bringing the shirt in. But look at the sleeves and the armholes and the line altogether of the cap gather dress over the top of the shirt. Works great with the collar, just leaving it open, and of course you can then dress it up with some jewelry or a shawl or whatever, but just wearing it like this, I think it looks great together. So another win, I think. Of course you can make that look really classic by wearing a dark colored dress like the blackcurrant, for example, and then making the shirt white. You end up with a very classic combination, and it always looks very dressy somehow, a dark dress with a white shirt. But the possibilities are endless. You can go the other way and wear the shirt really dark. So I just wanted to see what the fit was like, and I think the fit is great. So I haven't completely left the idea of playing with teal yet. So before I go to the last dress color, which is Magpie, I'm going to put on one of the love tops, the cocoon love tops in the teal colorway underneath the teal sky dress to teal up the whole outfit a little bit more before diving into Magpie. Oh, yum. I'm liking this. Of course, the cocoon teal is the brightest teal that we've got in the entire collection. And look how it is so teal that it turns the teal sky dress almost into like a cornflower blue. It goes all purpley against the teal of the top. I love how colors will sway in different directions depending on what colors you hold against them. And of course the teal baggies still go really well with it as well. So much for teal sky. I'm going to move on to Magpie. So I'll keep the rest of the outfit the same, but just change the dress. And that's going to be the longest length dress. So I personally love the combination of a really long dress and then with trousers that peep out from underneath like it does in this outfit. So Magpie dress in the size 1, long, and then with the regular length teal herringbone baggies underneath. So they're slightly cropped, and then the dress comes down to pretty much the edge of the bottom pockets. And then of course with my bright teal love top underneath as well to give me a little bit of extra warmth if it's needed. And then of course I can omit that top, which I will do in a minute, but I first will change into a different color of love tops because the reference that I made to kind of classic color combinations, I thought I wanted to play with that a little bit more. So I'm going to show Magpie against the dark red of Sangria. Here it is. As you can see, I've kept the rich red of the Sangria going in the shape of the red cross weave high-lows in the long length so that they peep out from under my long dress. And again, it ties the whole outfit together by creating a base layer in that rich red color and then the dress over the top. And of course, this could have just as easily been a pair of the Cocoon Sangria baggies. By the way, those 3 colors, Sangria, Teal and Turmeric, I'm going to get a whole wave of new stock in the tops as well as the baggies this coming week. So there'll be a top up which I will announce in the next newsletter as well to remind you. But if your particular color and size were out of stock, then there's a big chance that there will be new stock for you available this coming week. So sticking with that color combination, there was one other garment that I thought I'd throw on over the top of a cap gather dress, and that's a mini tabard. Again, just to see what happens in terms of these gathers and with that V line. Let's take a look. As you can see, I kept the Sangria love top on, so I've got 3 layers going here. And as you can see, the tabard, the mini tabard, just covers the edges of that dropping line of gathers around the body. So what you end up with is this fitted kind of bodice that just flares out and emphasizes the beautiful gathered dress line, skirt line that the cap gather dress shows you peeping out from under the mini tabard. I love the combination. And of course you've got free access to your pockets, and it's a different way of bringing a color back in a different part of your outfit. Of course, it doesn't all have to be like red with red. This could be the small check, for example. It could be a completely different color. It doesn't have to be the same as your trousers or as your top. The combinations are endless, and I always encourage you to play with the layer cakes that you have, make new combinations and come up with new ideas of combining your layer cakes, because as I always say, you can almost pick blind in your wardrobe, throw things on together and be surprised how well they go, and how unexpected color combinations end up looking much better than you thought they would before you put them together. Okay, I'm going to shed the layers and show this dress by itself before signing off for another episode. Long dress size 1, cap gather dress in Magpie. I'm going to show you 2 other garments to throw over the top. I've already shown you a duster with sleeves, but I thought I'll show you a synergy as well, because with a synergy duster you'll get the tops of your cap sleeves just sticking out, as you can see. So the cap sleeves just peep out beyond the, effectively also cap sleeves, but the sleeveless really, look, of the armholes, I should say, of the Synergy Duster. This Synergy Duster is in Mixed Spice, which is a combination of the blue that's in Magpie. Magpie, of course, is a dark blue cross-woven with black. and mixed spices, that same dark blue cross woven with like a tobacco brown, and you end up with a really interesting color. It's kind of greeny, muddy kind of, it's a very interesting color. It goes with lots of different complexions, and it's quite a neutral color as well. So you can combine it with lots of different colors, and you can pull it into lots of different parts of the color spectrum. Before I forget, because I always do, my eye just fell on the mannequins to my left, and I thought I should at least tell you what they're wearing. So the first one is wearing a cap suit, a play suit with cap sleeves, which is now also part of the new lineup, and which we concluded a pre-order for fairly recently, I should say. And that is in the royalty stripe. So that is teal and a soft purple in a subtle stripe. Right next to that is a mannequin wearing a pair of small slackers and a cap top, a linen cap top, both in hibiscus. And then furthest on the right is a mannequin that again is wearing a pair of slackers in spring greens, worn with a cap tunic in the same color. So I've at least preempted the questions about the mannequins for once. Here is a synergy duster, and if that would be slightly too cold, then here is the slightly warmer version as a sleeved duster. Both long length, the duster as well as the dress, so you can see how they combine. And with that sweeping hemline that I already emphasized before, open or closed, the choice is yours. I hope you love the cap gather dress as much as you love the gather dress. And if you have any questions, then give me a shout. If there are any colors that you want instead of the ones offered, let me know, and we'll see what I can do. I can't make any promises. I have to see how we can fit it in, but I will see what I can. I will always try for you, as you know. But I hope that with the 5 colors that I'm offering, you're getting a lovely spread of different options. Thank you very much for your patience watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you again soon.